Hello, this is Denise Rutledge, B2B writer and graphic designer at Writing for Market. I ran into a challenge with one of my client forms the other day, and I thought I'd share the solution I found. It won't do anything for my SEO, but it could be useful to someone else who's trying to create convenient forms for their clients. I like to make it easy for my clients to share information, and Microsoft Word is usually the tool they already have. Most people don't have the bandwidth to learn a new tool, so it's convenient and much more user-friendly to use something they already have. I also want my forms to look attractive, also because I do graphic work, and thus it's a reflection upon my business. Of course, there are some limitations in Word. However, when you want a questionnaire that expands as your client types in their answers, Word really is the best choice. Unfortunately, Adobe doesn't expand. Gives you a limited space, and I want my clients to actually ramble. The more rambling they do, often the better information I get. So let's get started in learning how to craft an elegant questionnaire. I'm going to begin with the most important principle. One of the biggest mistakes many Word users make is to use manual formatting. They use the style options they see at the top of the Home tab, which is perfectly fine. Unfortunately, they never move on to using the Styles pane. You want to use styles to format. So then you will give a style to the title. You'll give a style to heading 1. You'll give a style to heading 2. You'll give a style to normal if you change the default formatting of the body text. And you can also create new styles as well. Ultimately, the reason you do this is so you have professional, consistent formatting throughout your entire document. It's so easy to do. So let me show you. I'm starting from a file I created already. By default, this is the view that Word opens with. Even if you were opening a new document, you will always open in the Home tab. You'll see the Home tab is selected. Now, if you click on Developer, Word will switch to this tab. There are 4 icons you'll be using later. There's the text box, the checkbox, shading, and protect form. You could add a picture frame as well or use the combo box. However, for a simple form, the text box, checkbox, and protect form are the most important. They're the ones I'll be using in this tutorial. Now that you're familiar with the primary tabs that we're going to be using, let's go back to the home page. You'll see that on the left. Now notice at the top at the far right it says Styles pane. You want to click on that. See how the Styles pane appears at the right side? Once you have it open, go back to the Developer tab. Now you'll see I've already put some of the fields in place. How did I get them there? To place the check mark after Mail, I inserted the cursor right behind the letter E. Because I wanted some space between the E and the checkbox, I used the Tab key. I know Word has a default tab every 1/2 inch. I could have used the space bar as well. Then I clicked on the checkbox icon. I inserted the cursor after female and did the same thing. Notice how there's less space between the E and female than there is between the E and male. Using the space bar would have been better. Throughout the document, I placed the cursor where I wanted a text box, and I clicked on the text box icon. You repeat this action until you have text boxes beneath every question. Notice the shading icon is highlighted. That's why the data entry fields are gray. I could have chosen to not have the shading turn on, and this is what the form would look like. I think I'll keep the gray for now. It makes it easier to see where the boxes are. This is something I might turn back off after I finish doing all my design work. Let's switch back to the Home tab so we can start using styles to format our questionnaire. As I said at the beginning, this is a questionnaire I had designed already. However, it was for an earlier business. I've updated my logo and I use a different font now. I'd like to modify this questionnaire so it matches my new logo. Let's take a closer look at the Styles panel. At the bottom, you'll see I've accepted Word's default list view, recommended. For simple questionnaires, this view is the best, especially if you're writing a questionnaire for the first time. I applied the style title to the form title, Company Bio Questionnaire. Notice how both current style and apply a style show the same information for the form title. I like fancy styling for my title and the questions, so let me show you how I do it. First, select the text you want to format by dragging your mouse from beginning to end. Now click on the little down arrow beside the border styling icon. The drop down will expand now, and then you can click on the borders and shading option, which is right at the bottom. This is the box that will open up. Notice there are style lines available. Choose the style you want and the weight you want. I've chosen 1 point width. The preview doesn't really show the line very well. However, it is at the bottom. I know this because the box with the line at the bottom is highlighted. If you apply the line to a paragraph, it will go from margin to margin. There's also the option to only apply the formatting to the text. However, I find that this usually doesn't look really good because it changes the width of the banner, and it's much more attractive to have it consistent. Well, green isn't as good a match for my new color scheme as I think brown would be. So in a future slide, I'll show you what the color drop-down looks like on a Mac. For now, it's just enough to change the color. I don't trust Word to recognize the color change, so I always click on the edges of the preview where I want my lines. Until you click on the edge, the old color tends to remain there. Once you click, you should see your new color in the preview. The fatter the line, the easier it is to see the change. Another thing to watch for is that the icon is grayed. Oh, but don't click OK just yet. We haven't changed the color behind the text. Click on the Shading tab first. Now you can change the color behind the text by clicking on the small arrow beside the Fill Color bar. Now you can click OK to close the Border and Shaders Format box. Notice two things in the Styles panel. The current style box has a lot of text in it. That means all your work so far is just a style override. It only applies to the text that you highlighted. See how the title still shows the old formatting? There's a simple way to fix this. Click on the arrow behind the title and a menu opens up. Choose the Update to Match Selection option. Now here's what you get. Now the style overrides have become the new style formatting. To see why I've taken you through these steps, even though there's only one title style in the questionnaire, let's change the style behind the questions. Highlight the question by dragging the mouse over it. And notice as soon as you clicked in the line, the current style changed to heading 1. Now any changes you make will overwrite the current heading 1 style. Do like you did before. Click on the arrow beside the border formatting icon, then click on the borders and shading option at the bottom. In the box that opens, change the color of the line. I'll choose brown to match the title formatting. Now, to get rid of the turquoise background, click on Shading. I promised to show you what the color panel looks like. Here's what you'll see when you click on the arrow. The colors in the panel change depending on what theme you've chosen. I've used the brown at the bottom for my line, so I'll try the color at the top for the background. Oh, that's way too pink for me. So let's click on the beach ball. See the little circle with the plus in it? You can drag that circle around to get the exact color you want. The closer to the middle you get, the lighter the color. I like this creamy off-white, so I'm going to click on it and drag it over to the custom color selector. That way I won't have to hunt for it again if I need it for another purpose. Then I will click OK. Do you remember what the next step was? The current style shows you still have overrides. You haven't changed the style yet, so let's do that by clicking on the arrow beside heading 1 and choose the Match to Update selection option. Now see what happens. Every one of the questions has a new formatting, and that's why I took you through all these steps. You just saved yourself having to manually go through and update every single one of those questions. Now that green text just doesn't look right. That's where the quick text color changing icon comes in handy. If you click on the A, the text will be red. However, if you click on the arrow beside the A, you'll have the drop-down menu to choose from. I think I'll use that brown that I used on the line. If I didn't like any of the options, I'd click on more colors. I'll use the current text style box to tell if I've remembered to update the style, and if there's text or the style doesn't look the same in both boxes, I haven't. Now you remember the steps. You click on the arrow, expand the box, click on the Update Match selection. Now, all the questions look the same. What if I wanted a pattern behind the text, however? Well, there's an option for that. Open up the Borders and Shading box like you did before. Click on the Shading tab, and then notice, under the patterns, the style is clear. That's the default. When you click on the arrow, you'll see many options, especially if you scroll down. I kind of like the dark trellis. This is what it looks like. I like it, so I'll keep it. I use the drop-down arrow and update the title style. I think I'd like to see the same texture behind the questions, so highlight the text and go back to the Borders and Shading format box. By default, automatic is black, so that's not going to work. You won't be able to read the text. So I'll click on the arrow and expand the color box. That yellow at the top in the yellow-orange column looks hopeful. I'll see how that looks. I click OK and see what I get. That looks good. That looks good. So I'll update heading 1 to match my changes. Now let's consider some reasons you might want to create your own styles. Title's pretty logical. However, your questionnaire isn't competing for SEO. You might prefer to have styles that match what you're using the style to format. That's another thing that's pretty simple. Just click on New Style. In the box that opens, you'll see 4 important pieces of information. First, you're given the opportunity to name your style. You don't want to keep the default style. We've renamed our style Questions. Usually you don't have to change the style type, so keep paragraph. However, you may want to change the style based on property. This is especially true if you plan on using heading 1 for something else. I often switch to no style. That way, if I make a change to heading 1, it won't mess up my formatting for questions. Next, I choose the style for the following paragraph. This is usually normal, though you might want to choose a different style if you're doing a more complicated form. Picking the style you want to use next can save you a lot of formatting time because you turn your Enter key into a formatting tool. Finally, I make sure Add to Quick Style List is checked. That way I'll see my style in the Style menu. I don't use Automatically Update because it can produce some crazy errors if you decide that you'd like to have bold formatting on a single word or a couple of words, or you want to add italics to some of your text, because that will automatically make all the text in that style either bold or italic or both. Click OK, and you've added a new style. I'm pretty happy with the results, yet there's still one thing I'd like to change: the font in the title. I'll highlight my text again And if I click on the arrow, Mac's font menu opens up. I happen to know my font is near the top, so I won't have to scroll for too long. Unfortunately, this is one aspect of the Mac that I don't like really well. It doesn't organize the fonts that I've used recently very effectively. But if I hadn't used the font recently, I would have to scroll down through this list. There is another option, of course, and that would be to click on Format and then click on Font from that drop-down. However, I find scrolling is faster because there's a preview, and I like to see what the font looks like. It gives me an idea of whether I want to choose it or not. In this case, Adorned Engraved is my logo, so I'm going to use that for my title. There, I like that. However, I could personalize this even more if I changed my view. I could add my logo to the questionnaire. When I'm working with documents, I double-click on the gap between pages to remove the space. It allows me to have more text on the screen. However, for designing, I need to see the header and footer. If you've used this view, you'll have to double-click the line to see the header. See, there's a gap now. Now double-click over the footer, and as soon as you do this, the formatting bar for header and footer will appear at the top. Now, I've already added text to my footer with a page number. If you haven't, go ahead and type in the title of your questionnaire. Then go to the top and click on the page number drop-down arrow. You can choose many styles and choose the style option that you want. Now scroll to the top of the page and you'll see the header. Click anywhere in the header. Now click on Picture from File. For privacy reasons, I won't show you the Finder window that pops up. However, if you already know how to find a folder on your computer, you'll be able to find the picture you want to add. Here's my logo. However, that's way too large. Now, Word inserts any picture at its full size, or at the width that fits within the margins when the picture is wider than the margins. I don't want any distortion, so I make sure that the box is checked. Then I change the size. I've decided that 1.5 inches is a good size. Now I'd like to move the title so it's beside the logo. To do that, I click on the arrow beside Arrange, and this gives me access to the text wrapping feature. Click on the square and the logo pops right down and the title slides up. That's really close to what I want. In the next example, you see I've played around with the color scheme some more. And then I protected the form. See how there is a gray square surrounding the lock? After filling out my own questionnaire, I think I might want to go back and turn off the shading. It makes it harder to read. You'll find yourself making changes all the time. However, by using styles to save your changes, you'll have consistency in your formatting. That's a major step toward elegance. So what are the steps to creating an elegant questionnaire? First, write your questionnaire. Then highlight any text that you want to style. Use the formatting bar to style the text. Save your changes with the Update to Modify Style option for an existing style, or create some new styles if you prefer. Add text boxes and checkboxes in the Developer tab, and then protect the form. With a little practice, these steps will become automatic. You will be able to switch back and forth between the different steps without even thinking about it. Don't have time to create forms? Well, I can help. Just contact me at Writer Denise at Writing for Market. This has been Denise Rutledge. I specialize in B2B marketing content, and I would be very happy to help you. Thank you so much for watching this video.